How's it going, everybody? It's Pilot Flame, and we are back with another FPL preview live stream show. This is actually going to be the preview and the deadline stream. I was supposed to do a preview stream earlier on in the week, but things got a bit out of sorts this week. So we're combining them both. Mono says good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whenever you're watching this as well. Basically, I'm just going to post this as soon as I sign off here. I'm not going to do a deadline stream tomorrow. I have to... basically, I'm going to be watching the earlier games tomorrow, and then I have to be somewhere. So I need a decent night's sleep, to be honest. But we could probably get away with a few hours sleep. It's fine. Yeah, so tonight is going to be basically the preview deadline stream all in one. So it could go any length of time. It could go 30 minutes, half an hour, 45 minutes. I said 30 minutes, half an hour back to back. An hour, hour and a half even. It depends. We got a lot of things to talk about, to be honest. Double Game Week 22 announced potential title decider on Sunday between Arsenal and Man United. Is City waning? That is a potential downfall. My minus 16. How well did it go? Am I crazy enough to do another one this week? We'll wait and see. We'll go through our preview predictions and differential picks as well as we normally do. See how we did last week. And then we'll go through your questions in the chat and any queries that you may have. Also, if you're watching this over on YouTube, we usually do these streams live over on Twitch. So make sure to come check them out. Live and exclusive over on Twitch. But if you do have any questions, make sure to tweet at me or add a comment over on this video VOD. And we'll take a look at it. I'm not doing the greatest this season. So without further ado, let's see how we're trying to keep the ship afloat. So, on paper, not a terrible game week with 65 points, but unfortunately, those 65 points are much lower than what we would have otherwise gotten. Because we have to take 16 of those 65 points off. That's why there's an asterisk next to the 65. Because as you can see for the transfers last week, 5 out of 1. Which means we took 4 hits. 4 times 4, because each hit is 4 points, is 16 points. Now, what was my reasoning for it? Let's go through it, because I think that makes the most sense. So, if we go back, we'll do the calculation as well. So this was the team last week. So the players we took out, actually, I'll put this on, let me bring up the notepad while I'm here. Here's the notepad. Gonna have to hide some of the scores. Those are our predictions for later. So the players that went, that came out was Kepa, Cucurella, Sterling, Darwin, and Phil Foden. Those are the 5 players that came out, right? And we'll do points on this side. How many points they got in total? So they get, and then I'll work out the points for basically their counterparts on this side. So the players who brought in were Ederson. Player we brought on this side for Cucurella. Go back to this team here so you can see it. Although it is covering up, it's just covering up Martinelli and Kane. Let me move this. Just shrink this down just a touch for now, just to make it easier for you all to see on the fly. We brought in Luke Shaw. For Raheem Sterling, we brought in KDB. For Darwin, we brought in Harry Kane. And for Phil Foden, we brought in Mitoma. So, if we want to look at each thing kind of in isolation. So, originally I was going to do Sterling back to KDB. So that will be that transfers for free. So, in theory, we'll start with that one. So Sterling ended up with 0 points. KDB ended up with 5 points. However, Sterling would have come off because he didn't play at all for Andreas Pereira. So I'm gonna add 2 down to the bottom here on this equal sign, and then on the other side over here, I'm gonna have an equal sign down below. So we got KDB's 5 points down here. Okay, right. Next, let's go just down the list now. Ederson got 2 points. So that's +2 on this side. But it was -4. So -4. We'll worry about the hits. We'll worry about the hits later, basically. Actually, no. What we'll do is so -4 goes on this side, which is +4 on the side of my previous team. Kepa, I believe, ended up with 10 points. Yes, he ended up with 10 points. So Kepa's 10 points. Let me just bring this over a bit so you can see Ederson to make it easier. This can kind of come in a little bit too. So yeah, Kepa got 10 points, which hurts us quite a lot. So we're not doing great. Next, Cucurella for Shaw. Shaw got 4 points, so we'll add 4 points here. Cucurella got 0 points. He did not play, which means Hugo Bueno would have come off my bench. So we took a hit, so that's +4 points this side, plus Hugo Bueno 6 points. All right. I'm going to go a line below, and I'm going to bring this in a lot. Okay. Darwin Nunez, 0 points, because he didn't play. Harry Kane, 7 points. So, +7 for Harry Kane there. And then here would be +4 because it was a hit. And then plus, because Darwin would have came off, and Ben White would have came in. So, +8 points. So, even though I've had 3 players thus far that have all gotten 0, my bench scored decently well. So, that kind of throws a spanner in the works. Phil Foden only ended up with 1 point. Mitoma ended up with 6. So, I get +6 on this side. It was 4 points to take him out, so +4 again. +1. So, basically, I took out 4 players. It is a bit of a math lecture, a little bit. And I'm just showing like visually how you basically work out like if your hits paid off effectively. So if you break it down and do it in like isolation here, let me just move this over a little bit. So if you look at a transfer for transfer, let me move the Shaw one over so we can see all the points. If you look at the transfers individually, Shaw broke even, because we're saying that this one, KDB and Sterling, was the free one. So we got net 5 on the KDB transfer. We made +3 on the Darwin transfer. We made +1 on the Mitoma transfer, because 6 - 4 -1. And Shaw was break even, but we lost 8 on the Kepa deal. So we really got burnt on 1 transfer. And our bench burnt us for another, 16 points. So that was the real problem. So if our bench was not like if our bench had been normal, so let's add these up now. So 2 plus 4 is 6, plus 10 is 16, plus 4 is 20, plus 6 is 26, plus 4 is... Hold on, my math's wrong. Hold on. 2 plus 4 is 6, plus 10 is 16, plus 4 is 20, plus 6 is 26, plus 4 is 30, plus 8 is 38, plus 4 is 42, plus 1 is 43. So 43 points is basically bad points. Bad points. And then here, 5 plus 2 is 7, plus 4 is 11, plus 7 is 18, plus 6 is 24. So these are good points. So if we take our good points and subtract it from our bad points, you will notice that 24. So if we do the final total here, 24 minus 43 equals minus 19. So we're 19 points in the hole because of our transfers, because our bench scored well. Now, had our bench scored like 2 from Andreas, 1 from Bueno, 2 from Ben White, as an example, it would have been only an 8-point loss. But we would be in better position, so I probably would have taken that. Or, in theory, would be in a better position. So, again, sometimes it's better off doing nothing, which is probably what we're going to do this week. No, I lost, well, I took, so you have to account for the minus 16. So, in a straight-up battle of points, like, if you take them, you have to add the minus 16 to your previous team, because that's how, it's what it costs. So I lost, so if I had done nothing, if I had played Sterling, if I had played Darwin, if I had played, Cucurella, if I had played Kepa, done literally nothing with my team, I would have been 19 points better off. Because you have to account for the 16 points. You have to. That's just how it works. In terms of points, player for player without hits, my bench scored 16, plus the 1 from Foden, 17, plus Kepa's 10 is 27. The other side is 24 points. So if you did it player for player for the players that came off my bench, yes, I only lost 3 points, but you still have to account for the 16 points that I took in hits. You just have to. So in the end, it's minus 16, or minus 19 points in total, which is not ideal, unfortunately. So I think that was somewhere like that. So we'll put that back the way it was. Yeah, that's kind of the math, how it works out. It's a bit wonky because you have to add 4 points to the other side, to your previous transfers. But in straight up transfers, it would have been fine. I would have been way up on the deal had my bench not scored so well. Because if you look, like, Matoma was good, Kane was decent, De Bruyne was okay, Shaw was neutral, Ederson was bad. So, all in all, I probably have better players on my team because I don't have Sterling, Darwin, Cucurella in it. But, yeah, so now I have to look ahead into Game Week 35. And Game Week 32 as well, because that's another thing we have to also take into consideration. We will know a lot more for future chip planning at the end, or at the start, or before the start of next Game Week. So let me run through these predictions here. And then we'll take a look at how we're shaking up for that. Yeah, Shaw was pretty unlucky for the clean sheet, but I kind of half expected it because Elise is like it was one of those games where it's like Palace, the only way they're scoring is De Gea already had to make 2 like brilliant saves in that game. But it would have taken some real special to beat De Gea. When I saw the free kick position, I'm like, yeah, at least they could put this in the top corner. And he did, which is unfortunate. So yeah, so for our points predictions, we got 3 points if we get the exact score right, 2 points for, or sorry, 1 point for a result right, and 0 if we get anything else. So Aston Villa Leeds. We'll just fly through these really quickly. I predicted 2-2. It ended up being 2-1, so we got that one wrong. United City got it bang on the money, even though there was controversy. There was definitely controversy. So we got 3 points there. You gonna show your team or after this week's predictions? Yes, I will. The team stuff's gonna come in just a bit because we're gonna talk about Game Week 22, which is potentially a double for Manchester United and Leeds. We're gonna talk about blank Game Week 25. We're gonna talk about the ramifications of the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup later on as well, and how that could potentially change chip strategy. So yeah, that's coming in. We're doing that in just a bit. Brighton Liverpool. I predicted 2-2. Ended up being 3-0 for Brighton. Fairly comfortable. So definitely got that one wrong. Everton Southampton. Southampton getting 2 goals after Everton had already scored. Everton in some real trouble now. So we got that one wrong. Forest Leeds. Forest comfortable. 2-0. Leicester look terrible at the moment. Wolves West Ham. Wolves nicking it 1-0 in typical fashion at Molineux. So we got that one wrong as well. Brentford Bournemouth got that one bang on. So 3 points there with the 2-0 win. Chelsea beating Palace by a 1-goal margin. So we get 1 point there. We predicted 2-1. Newcastle, just the 1-0 over Fulham. Very late. They left it as well. So we still get the 1 point there for that prediction. Spurs versus Arsenal predicted 2-2 draw. And it'll be 2-0 in favor to Arsenal, who completely dominated in the first half. And then were in cruise control in the second half. Crystal Palace Man United predicted 2-0 for Man United and being 1-1. And for some reason, I predicted Spurs to beat City, which makes no sense, but that's fine. I did predict 2-1 for Man City. I just thought Man City was going to have a bad week. Mind you, it was looking pretty good in the first half for Spurs, but wasn't meant to be. So both of those wrong. Brentford kept a clean sheet. David De Gea. How many points did he get? Did he make? How many saves did he make? So he got a save point there, so he got 3 points. And he made 0 saves in that one. So yeah, David De Gea unfortunately was not ideal. Delot didn't show up at all. Son didn't get a return as far as I remember. Yeah, no returns for Son. So again, and then Martial was pretty bad. So the only thing we got was a clean sheet. We got 3.6, 7, 8 points. So just barely staying afloat there, even though we had a couple extra fixtures, which is not great. So we're going to have to do better on that. So 8 points, and then we were 1 out of 5 on the differentials, which is terrible. So let's move on past that, and we'll do our predictions for this week. Bring up the notepad. Notepad can come down just a bit. There we go. 2-0 United was unlucky as McTominay was a stonewall pen, then Casemiro would have gone off to the. I believe that probably would have been the case. If we had got the penalty, it had been scored. Casemiro definitely would have came off and he would have been available for Arsenal. But I just think that it's one of those things where you have to play him. He could have got a yellow card in an earlier point in the game. Not saying that he deserved one, but I'm saying he could have because it's just he's obviously on the pitch. So we have to go to the Emirates without Casemiro, which is unfortunate, but sometimes it's gonna happen. Sometimes it's gonna happen. How did VAR let it go? Because they probably saying, well, we gave United a thing that we got wrong last week, so you know, I'm not gonna say anything more on VAR, to be honest. It's inconsistent. Should Rashford have been offside for the goal last week? I think based on the written law can be interpreted in 2 different ways. In which case they should have kept the decision on the field, which was originally the offside. So I think it should have been offside. Although as a United fan, I'm happy that it did go in because, you know. But I think that if whatever the call is originally, if it's not clear and obvious, or the rule can be interpreted in two different ways, then potentially you got to stick with your decision. However, them overturning it, I also understand that. Play to the whistle is something I've always kind of abided by as well. So they are conflicting. Me personally, I think the play to the whistle probably favors a bit more. So I guess that one probably favors United a little bit. But again, literally, if they would have said it was offside, or if they would have said it was a goal, I could have seen it go both ways. I'm glad that it did go the United way. But then again, with another game, because Sancho was taken down earlier on in the season, no penalty. McTominay gets taken down. The guy does not. Crystal Palace defender just doesn't get the ball. No penalty. Unfortunately, VAR is very inconsistent. Like Bono, you bring up in the chat, Richarlison last night. I think he's personally, he looks like he's just trying to fling his body just in the way and is just flailing his arms out. So sometimes when you jump and you go to turn, or like you're jumping as you're backing up, you can like use your arms to like balance yourself as you're like kind of falling, as it were. But he was definitely not doing that. He was just basically trying to put his arms up in the way. So I don't understand that. That makes no sense to me. I think Haaland owners to come out with just a goal in 5 goals scored across City's 2 games is a bit harsh. But they found it pretty hard to get to the ball to Haaland, and a few of the goals versus Spurs were pretty fortunate circumstances, I would say. The second goal Mahrez scored. I mean, what is Longley doing? The first goal that Mahrez scores, I mean, Lloris just needs to retire now. Yeah. Yeah, referees is too opinionated. There's no obvious clarity, and the thing is, they put rules in place. They tried to make them more black and white, and it just made it worse, basically. So something needs to get changed. I also want to say on the Marcus Rashford thing, that Arsenal scored a goal in the FA Cup with Alexis Sanchez in the final, I want to say. Very similar thing. The ball was played to somebody who was offside. They stood still. The ball went past them. Alexis Sanchez ran from an onside position and scored. And I've seen multiple iterations of that sort of ordeal happen. Same as City and Rodri. I think it was in the season where there's no fans allowed in the ground. So that is another example. It's super inconsistent. So, and it seems like that has always been the way that type of thing has been called. I think if Akanji, like I mentioned in the previous stream, if Akanji runs towards Rashford and crashes into him as he's about to reach out for the ball, they'd probably give it as offside. But he didn't. He stopped. So, and had the referee put his flag up, which they're not instructed to do, by the way. If he had put his flag up immediately and said, hey, Rashford's offside, boom, then the play is dead anyway and it's fine. But because he was like, I'm not sure if Rashford offside, he's pretty quick, and they let it run, and then you put it in the net, then you have to kind of review it. And I think on review, I think if you set it as offside on field, I think at that point you probably should keep it offside. But they said that, or they're like, well, we've done it all these other times where we've kept it as a goal, and Akanji kind of slowed down a bit, although I think it messes up Ederson more than anyone. I mean, it is what it is. But, like, you know, there'd be fans saying that, oh, United got done over versus Palace. They should have had the one versus for McTominay. But then they'll say, oh, well, it's karma because you got one versus Man City. That's not how it should work. It should just be, the call should just be right every time, whether somebody got the you know, the rub of the green, as they say, one time versus another. It just doesn't make sense. Another thing that I also want to mention, Ederson, how he doesn't have an assist, I don't know. I do have Ederson in my team, but FF Scout Mark, who has brought up a few examples where the ball has played out from the goalkeeper in the general direction of the only forward on his team that it's aimed at. It is then deflected off a defender in the general path of that said forward, and it's basically not in like a crazy direction. And they gave it as assists back in 2015. And there's another instance of it as well that he mentioned. I think it was Stoke who got one, and there was another instance of it elsewhere. And for some reason, they didn't give it to Ederson this time, which is kind of weird. Same with Saka. I think that should still be given as an assist because he without Saka there is no goal. So I think he should still be given the assist. The only reason I think that they didn't give it was because Lloris, it hits off Sessegnon, which then hits Lloris, and then his second touch, Lloris hits it, and then he hits it again, and it goes in the goal. I think that's the only reason probably why they didn't give it. Yeah, you can't be biased that it was offside in the Rashford. Yeah, I know. 100% Rashford is offside. 100%. He is 100% offside. It almost looks like he even goes to shoot. But the fact that he doesn't touch the ball and Bruno scores, that's legitimate in terms of the goal. Now, you then have to question, did Rashford interfere with play? Well, Akanji didn't seemingly play to the whistle. Ederson was kind of squaring up to Rashford. And maybe Walker probably slowed down a bit too. But again, you're taught as a kid to play to the whistle. But also for the fact that should the linesman have just put his flag up because Rashford was so far offside, it wasn't even close. I think that's probably more of a thing. But they need clarity on that. They just need to either have that rule be like either it's always a goal or always not a goal. And based on the way they flagged it in the past, or like they've looked it up in the past, it's been a goal every time. So I'm happy that they did that. I'm also happy that as a United fan they did that. But I think if you should want to cut out that rule. You know, I think they should change it to be like, if a player is offside, even though they touch the ball, if they are in the vicinity to potentially touch the ball, then no dice. Unless they make no attempt to touch the ball. So Rashford is running alongside the ball. That is an attempt to play the ball, in my opinion. If it's like the Arsenal one in the FA Cup where the ball goes towards, I think it was Aaron Ramsey, who literally just sticks his hands up and stands there and doesn't do anything. Same thing. Roger would be the same thing. So those two would count, but Rashford's wouldn't, because Rashford's literally running alongside the ball. So I think in the future, that type of goal shouldn't count. I would agree. Each game is different, but relying too much on Rashford for goals. Yeah, and he was kind of a bit greedy in the second half too versus Palace too, in my opinion. Yeah, I think Saka's was assist. I think Kane, you said, sure, Kane's was less unassisted, but he gets it. No, because the thing is, Kane's shooting. Those think that Kane's crossing the ball? No, there's no chance. Kane hits that with the laces. Kane was shooting. 100%. I believe in my mind that Kane was shooting. So, yeah, and the interference is on Ederson. So, mainly. And I think Akanji kind of slows up as well. But, again, we'll never know. Anyway, moving on to the predictions. So, Liverpool-Chelsea have gone with a 2-2. I think it's going to be a bit of a goal fest. Both defenses haven't been ideal recently with injuries and chopping and changing and just lack of midfield for both teams. It should be an interesting one. Forest-Bournemouth, I think they get the 3 points here away from home. Same with Brighton. Probably been a bit generous to Leicester, only conceding 2 because Brighton have been in such good form. Southampton-Villa, I think Villa get the away win 1-0. I think West Ham, Everton both need 3 points, and I think both of them will get just the 1 point with the 0-0 draw. Newcastle Palace, I can only see this going in the way of the Magpies. Brentford Leeds, I expect Brentford to get the win in this one. 2-1 is what I've gone with. Man City versus Wolves. I think 2-0, pretty comfortable. It could be 5-0, but I'm pretty sure Man City will keep a clean sheet. Wolves don't score very many goals, even still. And they need to rectify that if they want to make sure that they stay out of the bottom 3. But Man City will be comfortable in this one. Arsenal Man United, I just have a funny feeling that United are going to win. I had a funny feeling that United were going to beat City. And I literally said before this week, like I was talking to family members and friends and stuff like that. And I've just been saying that I have a sneaking suspicion that we're going to get 7 points out of this week. And I wouldn't be shocked if we beat Arsenal and beat City, but like drop points to Palace because we overlooked the Palace game or something like that. So that's what I've gone with. I think Spurs scrape a win versus Fulham in the last game. 3-1 Arsenal. Why do I think that? Because we beat Arsenal. We beat Arsenal 3-1 at Old Trafford without Casemiro before. Now the only difference was that they didn't have Thomas Partey. They didn't have Thomas Partey, which they do now, and he's in fantastic form. Although there are other reasons why I think he shouldn't be playing, and everyone knows those reasons, which seem to be covered up and just not talked about. But regardless, I would say United could definitely field a team very similar to what they did versus City. I can bring up a tactics board and kind of... so, clean sheet for this week. I'm going to go with... I'm going to go with West Ham. I don't think Everton score. If there's any team that is going to score in that game, it's going to be West Ham. Differential goalkeeper for this week. We'll go with Fabianski. 1.2%. Fabianski. On West Ham. 1.2%. Again, very differential. Defender for this week as a differential pick. We're going to go with... Dun, 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 dun. How owned is Botman now? Must be pretty owned. He's 5.5%. We'll go with it. Just because a lot of people have Trippier, a lot of people have Pope. But I think Botman could be a good cheap defender. 5.5% is pretty good. Will Anthony play? Possibly, but I think it's probably not likely, though. I think if we're setting up similar, he probably won't play. Midfielders... Mitoma. Did I put Mitoma last week? I don't think I did. But let's do Mitoma. Or did I do Mitoma? I can't even remember now. It's fine. We're doing Mitoma anyway. 2.4%. Mitoma. Let's have it. And forwards this week, there's basically zero. But if there's any forward that would be a huge differential this week, it's going to be Big Wout Weghorst. 0.3%. So yeah, those are my clean sheet and differential picks for the week. Let me maneuver this notepad out the way. Right, let's go to the tactics board. So we'll put Arsenal in red. And we'll put United in white because that's apparently what United are going to play in. So, you got Ramsdale. This is how I think Arsenal will set up. I mean, Arsenal will set up pretty straightforward. It's easy to predict Arsenal lineups. They play the same lineup every week, to be honest. Saliba. They'll play Ben White here. This will be Partey. This is going to be Xhaka. It will actually be like more like here. Odegaard. It's probably more of like a staggered like kind of like that mainly. Through the middle will be Nketiah, Gabriel. Sorry, not Gabriel. Martinelli, and Saka. Ignore the numbers. Just look at the names. Ferguson, come on, the Irish. Yeah, he would be, yeah. I would say him and Mitoma have good shouts to do well, because Leicester's defense is just terrible. Also, Ferguson's a big lad, and Leicester are pretty bad on set pieces still, so. You got 82 -8, but you used triple captaincy this week. Yeah, I mean, the triple captaincy is a bit, potentially a bit overrated. Out of all the chips, I think it's the worst one, for sure. Because free hit is so valuable, especially in blank game weeks. Wildcard is the best chip by a mile, for obvious reasons. The bench boost is pretty good in certain scenarios when paired with, and has much higher potential than a triple captainer. Because you're looking at 4 players with potentially 2 fixtures each versus just 1 player with 2 fixtures each. And the triple captainer, you're probably looking at, so if you're looking at what, like, let's say a striker gets 2 returns, 2 goals, and 3 bonus points on each. That's 9 points each. Let's say you put it on Kane as an example, or Haaland. 9 points either side. That's probably would be like a pretty good return. 2 goals either side in each game. That's 18 points that you get from the triple captaincy chip. You don't get 36 points. You don't get 48 points. Or 54 points, sorry. You get whatever they scored. So, Haaland in this case got 6 points in one game and 2 in the other. Got 8 points in total, like Mono says in the chat. The triple captaincy chip gave you 8 points. It didn't give you 20... What is it? 20... What's 8 times 3? 24? Didn't give you 24. It didn't give you 16. It gave you 8. That's how many points it gave you extra. Whereas a bench boost, if everyone plays one game on your bench and you bench boost in just a game week and everyone gets 2 points, you get 8 points. That's why the bench boost has much higher potential, especially when paired in double game weeks. David De Gea. We'll briefly go over this, then we'll talk about the fixtures and stuff afterwards. Now, so Rashford will play Bruno, Fred. This is the team that I think he'll play. This is the team I think that Ten Hag will play. Shaw, Wan-Bissaka, Eriksen, and Weghorst. This is the team that I think he'll play. The team that I think we should play is, I think we should do this. Take McTominay off the pitch. Put Martinez into defensive midfield. Take off Eriksen. Put Bruno in there. Put Shaw in at center back. Put Malacia in at left back. And put Garnacho on. And take out Weghorst and put on Antony. And put Rashford through the middle. With Garnacho out on the left. Because basically what's going to happen is Antony and Garnacho will work hard off the ball. So basically when we're defending, because we're going to have to defend without the ball a lot, because Arsenal are going to control it, right? Arsenal do struggle to break down a low block. If you give them all the time on the ball, they'll find the pass eventually. But you can basically kind of compact this space in here. And kind of defend in like a 4-4-2 sort of ordeal. Saka's going to probably play quite wide. Nketiah's going to be in the box. Odegaard's going to be trying to get into this middle area. Martinelli's going to be wide. Zinchenko's going to be coming in narrow. Ben White. Actually, Saka will probably play more infield. Ben White will probably go in and around the outside. Saliba and Partey will be pushed. Saliba and Gabriel will be pushed way up. Xhaka will probably be in here. Odegaard in here. And Partey will probably be controlling in here. But the thing that is super, super good for United, we'll use this this yellow color or greeny color, whatever it is, here. This is where United wants to put the ball. In this space. And basically what you need to do is, if you ever get control of the ball in these areas here for United, Garnacho needs to be running into the space in behind Ben White, because Ben White's never catching him. Antony needs to be running into this space behind Zinchenko, because Zinchenko's never catching him. If the ball's good enough, Gabriel's not getting across, and Saliba's not getting across without the United player bringing it under control. Palestri, I think, is another good option as well. But the reason I like Martinez is because Martinez is controlling. He can take the ball off the back four. He's pretty quick. And what you can do is you can take Fred and tell him, don't let Odegaard go anywhere. Did Martinez play CDM for Ajax? He did. He's very good at it too. Because you see that Martinez, especially if you watch the Crystal Palace game back, he was touch tight every time the ball went into Edouard, Zaha, it didn't matter. He was taking the ball off him. Always taking the ball off him. Very touch tight. So Fred gets in close to Odegaard. Martinez can rile up Xhaka and get him sent off. That's easy game all day. And basically, if you just man-mark Odegaard, because Odegaard isn't the quickest when he has, like... He's quick with his feet, but he's not quick as in terms of, like, he can get away from a man easily if he's, like, pressed. Like, so if Odegaard ever has to receive the ball, like, so basically how, like, every time Mahrez got the ball for City, Malacia was basically just up in him. Saka's a bit of a different customer because he'll take it a bit wider. Mahrez was trying to, like, receive it kind of more inward in this area. Saka will often take it out here and then come in, and then Ben White will come around the outside. Because City didn't do that as much, which was kind of weird. So, but I think the game is going to be interesting because I think this part of the pitch right here. Actually, we'll probably bring this into play. So if they go with this kind of formation, it's this battle right here. Mainly. Fred, Shaw, Malacia on this side will have to deal with Saka, Ben White, and Odegaard. I think that's where the majority of Arsenal are going to try to kind of go for it. You think Saka with Malacia on toast? Well, I think Mahrez is better than Saka, so he should be hopefully good versus Saka. But last time he wasn't great, but I prefer trying that idea and lose rather than winning. Yeah, exactly. Playing McTominay and Fred makes no sense because McTominay can't play the ball under pressure. And even when he does have time, it's not the greatest. But what United need to do is they need Garnacho, they need Rashford, they need Antony, and they need to, at every chance, be going in these channels, running through them. They need to basically say, Arsenal, if you want to defend against us, you need to have Gabriel, Saliba, and Partey all wary that cannot participate in the attack, basically. Even if Antony's out wide defending Martinelli, and even if Garnacho's out wide defending Ben White, Shaw and Varane will be on Nketiah kind of in the middle here. Odegaard will be man-marked by Fred, and then Saka and Malacia. Malacia just... This battle is, like, the most important probably out of the whole thing, and as well as Fred and Odegaard. Those two individual battles, like, United just have to win. If you don't win it, you lose. If Eriksen played, where would he fit in? He would play instead of Antony, so you would do this. You would take Antony off, you would put Eriksen in here, and then you would just fill in the midfield even more. Bruno would kind of just like float around, and Eriksen would kind of just be here. And then basically you just have Rashford and Garnacho playing as like split strikers, and their whole job is basically get down the touchline, basically, and make runs in this direction, behind Saliba, behind Gabriel. He'll more than likely play the first lineup we had. But if we play like how we did versus City, the player that plays the most like Casemiro, Lisandro Martinez. Quick in the tackle, reads the game well, plays the ball through the lines, takes the ball off the back four, and progresses the ball from the defenders. It's a no-brainer in my opinion. This is definitely not a game for Wout. I think Wout could definitely be fine in this one. And if you didn't want to play Eriksen, you could play Weghorst. And you could just have him sit off and like sit in front of Partey, basically. Like drop off. Because he had pretty good hold-up play versus Crystal Palace. But how fit is he, we don't know. And then he could bring in the likes of Bruno into play, or Shaw into play, or Martinez into play, and they could then play the balls into the channel, and then he could run on afterwards. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting, I think. If Martial is fit, you feel he starts and no Garnacho. I think if Martial is fit to play at least 70 minutes and won't get re-injured again, but he hasn't trained all week, I think you play Martial because I think he's very important to the team. But otherwise than that, I don't think you're playing him. I don't think you're playing him at all. So that's why I think the more likely outcome is that he's going to play Bruno out on the right. He'll play Eriksen. He'll play Fred and McTominay. And he'll basically rely on kind of holding it up and Rashford in behind. Which probably won't work, to be honest. Would allow Arsenal to push up to the halfway line. He has no pace. But the thing is, you can have no pace as a striker. The thing is do your wide men have pace? Because the wide men are the ones that are going to score. The wide men are the ones that are going to cause problems. The reason the wide men are going to cause problems is the reason the wide men are going to cause problems is they're going to be coming from the blind sides of the defenders and going in behind them. So, like, Gabriel and Saliba, they're going to be pushed up. They're going to be around, like, kind of the center circle, like the perimeter of, like, the circle around the center circle, if you know what I mean. So there's that circle, this circle here. This circle here, they're going to be, like, one defender's going to be, like, here. The other one's going to be, like, here. Right? So yeah, I think that's kind of what you need to do. You just have to kind of go wide of the touchline, which is what, if Garnacho plays, and play that formation, that's kind of what they're going to do anyway, because they're going to be forced to defend out wide, because Ben White will overlap or underlap with Saka staying wide. Martinelli will go wide or come inside, and Zinchenko will either stay inside or overlap. So you have to basically do that. Basically, United's whole point is that when they try to go to get when the ball goes into Odegaard, it needs to be stopped immediately. You don't allow him to turn at all and find a ball out wide. If the second the ball goes to Odegaard, Fred needs to basically take the wing. If it gets stripped off him, then Saka's too far up the pitch, and Nketiah's too far up the pitch, Odegaard's too far up the pitch, Martinelli will be too far up the pitch, and then Xhaka, if he's pressed up, he'll be too far up the pitch, which leaves Partey exposed, and their back line exposed. And then it's just in behind. Can we, in that first 5 seconds of regaining the ball, maintain it, hold it up, whatever you need to do, and then play the pass and get some space? Because if you get space, you can carve Arsenal to bits. You can. Gabriel and Saliba are decently quick, but they're not Marcus Rashford or Garnacho like quick. Garnacho's quick with the ball. Marcus Rashford's quick with the ball and without the ball. That's why I would play Anthony, Garnacho, and Rashford through the middle. And I would say I would play it like exactly how like old school, Klopp's heavy metal football basically is. Hold on, I'm just putting the predictions and differentials up on Twitter really quickly. I would play it exactly like how Fred to get 3 yellow cards. Possibly, but let's hope not. But he can get booked now and he won't get suspended, so it's fine. Because United have already played 19 games. Whereas Saka and Saliba, if they do get a yellow card, they're suspended for whatever their next game is, which is Everton away. They still have one more game that they need to play. I think Spurs do too, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. How many games have Spurs played? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. No, the Spurs have played, they played 19 games. So Kane's fine now. But basically, that's what you need to do. So if you're going to play Veghorst, you need to have 2 people on the either sides to be pacey and have trickery. Because skillful players is what gets you out of situations when you need to lump the ball into the channels. Skillful, quick players. Anthony's skillful and quick. Rashford is skillful and quick. So if you're going to play Veghorst and basically like kind of sack that position, then you kind of leave yourself one-dimensional. If you're going to play like Fred and McTominay and you're only going to play Bruno, they just need to know that they need to stop the ball going to Bruno, or they need Luke Shaw to not have time on the ball to pick a pass. Yeah, I don't want to see Elanga playing. Elanga's too wasteful. Although he is quick. He is quick. So that could cause a worry. But I think I think if it was me, I would play it exactly the way Liverpool have played teams kind of in the past. Have played Arsenal teams in the past. They'll have their fullbacks. They'll have Trent. They'll have Robertson, who are good going forward in possession. Robertson's better defensively. In this case, we have our better defensive fullback is on our right side instead. You have your 2 center backs. You have your goalkeeper. In midfield, you have a worker like Jordan Henderson. In this case, it's Fred. You have your DM, your general, your marshal. In Fabinho, that's Lisandro Martinez. You have your arriving late in the box, your creator, your kind of all-round action midfielder, the one that's going to work hard off the ball, both offensively and defensively. That's Bruno Fernandes in this case. A little bit more on the creative side than Wijnaldum was. Wijnaldum was more of a late arriving in the box type of guy, and a bit more of a set-piece threat in terms of him being on the end of a set-piece. So slightly different there. And then you got your Salah, your Mane, and your Jota or your Firmino, where you have Martial, who's more the Firmino type, likes to drop off, likes to hold up the ball, likes to dish it out. And then you have Rashford, who's basically your Salah, your Mane, and then you have Garnacho on the other side, who's your Salah, your Mane, or somebody like that. In this case, we have Anthony, we have Rashford, who's not necessarily going to drop off the line and hold up the ball, but it's going to be 3 more dangerous. It's going to be more of an effect when they had basically Jota, Salah, Mane. Or Diaz, Salah, Mane. So that's how I envision it. So hopefully it goes that way. That'd be great. Am I gonna play Ben White this week? No, no chance. I think both teams are scoring anyway. The only reason I'm playing Luke Shaw is because I think he's more likely to get an attacking return than Ben White. That's it. Luke Shaw can sometimes take some set pieces, whereas Ben White doesn't. And Luke Shaw is probably more likely to score a goal off a set piece or marauding forward than Ben White does. But Ben White probably more... Yeah, Luke Shaw just attacking-wise is just better than Ben White. Is Ben White more likely to keep a clean sheet? And I'll put him ahead of Bueno? Sure. But otherwise than that, probably not. Robertson versus Chelsea at home. Again, Liverpool, anything could happen in that game, so I'm just playing Robertson anyway. Can Bruno drop into CDM or as a deeper cover in midfield? He's a waste there. Because Bruno's not very good at tackling. he's a lot like Paul Scholes in that way. He's not very good at tackling. He runs around a lot. He's very good at long-range passing, which sometimes gets him in trouble. Brilliant midfielder, but yeah, he's not the greatest tackler. Is that my team with no transfers? Let's get on to that, actually. Let's go to the fixtures here, actually. So, Game Week 21, single game week, nothing too crazy. Game Week 22, a double game week has provisionally been added for Manchester United versus Leeds. This is also interesting because Man United will play Leeds at home, and then they'll play Leeds away on the Sunday, which is crazy. So, in basically 4 or 5 days, United will play Leeds twice, which requires mega policing operations, which is ridiculously weird. This was one of the games that was called off because of the passing of the Queen. So that is the only double, and that's provisional, and that is only if. That is only if in between Game Week 21 and 22, there is 2 Carabao Cup fixtures to be played and an FA Cup fixture. Now, the likelihood that Man United draws Reading is probably not likely. Let me... I don't know who leads. Let me check the FA Cup fixtures, because it's determined on the FA Cup. So the likelihood that that Man United draw with Reading is probably very slim, I would say. Wait, who do Leeds play? Whereas... Okay, so Leeds will know who they play. I think after Accrington, Stanley, and Boreham would play. I think they play the winner of that. So the likelihood is you would think Leeds would win that. Right? So basically, as it stands right now, Leeds are favorites to win their game in the FA Cup. And Man United are favorites to win their game in the FA Cup. United can put a rotated team out and they should still be beating Reading. If they put a rotated team out and lose to Reading, I mean, that's probably more likely than a draw, I would say. But basically what needs to happen in order for this double game week to go through is basically Leeds and Man United need to not draw and force a replay. Because if they force a replay, then the replays are going to be played during this midweek here. That's where they're going to be played. And the reason the Premier League is trying to fit this fixture in is because, as it stands right now, without this fixture in there, if United continue in all the competitions, they only have 3 midweeks free available to fit 4 games in, one of which is this Leeds fixture. Another one will be the Brentford fixture in 25, which is this one right here. The one versus Brentford. And the reason for that is because this is the game week for the Carabao Cup final on the 26th. So that is also a problem. So that's what they're trying to alleviate with United at the moment, considering United are in the most competitions you could possibly still be in out of any other team. Because United are still in the Carabao Cup. And out of all the teams that are in European competition, they're the only ones still in both the Carabao Cup and European competition. They're also still in the FA Cup as it stands, and obviously they play in the Premier League. So that's basically what needs to happen. So, a lot is going to be determined on the weekend games following this week's set of fixtures. So, you see that the last game of Game Week 21 is on the 23rd, and then the next game is on the 3rd of February. That's a long ways away. So if we look at the FA Cup fixtures, they're all going to be played. So Man City play Arsenal on the Friday, 27th of January. A lot of games on the Saturday. United play in the afternoon on the Saturday. Liverpool play on the Sunday. But the main kicker is that United plays on the Saturday, the 28th, and Leeds play in the morning on the 28th. So we will know if that fixture's on or not by the end of Saturday. We will know. 100% guaranteed, sure shot thing. We will know on the 28th of January whether this fixture is going to be played or not. And then United will have a midweek fixture on the... either February 1st or January 31st versus Forest in the second leg of the Carabao Cup semi-final. Then they'll play at the weekend against Palace at home on the Saturday. And then on the Wednesday, they'll play versus Leeds, assuming they both don't draw. Otherwise, there will be replays for whichever team... basically doesn't play or whatever. I think there also still is a possibility. I think there's still a possibility. Yes, they put this provisionally there, but I think there's still a possibility that if they find out that United makes it through, into the Carabao Cup final, and Brentford doesn't draw or lose, I think they could potentially still put it in here too. They could move it up and put it in there. But since they didn't do a provisional announcement like they did for Leeds, I think that they're not looking at that. But I think it's still possible. But it'd be kind of harsh to move it up a few game weeks. Because, again, when it comes to scheduling and that sort of stuff, Premier League doesn't care about the fans, in my opinion. They seem to be a bit more rash with things as well. Which would mean, if we bring up... let me bring up a new window here. For... let me see. Where's Ben Crellin? Will the double game week 22 be done pre-double game week? Yes. We'll know it on the January 28th before it even starts. So, yes. We will know. We will know ahead of time. Where's Ben Crellin? Ben Crellin. Ben Crellin. If you haven't followed Ben Crellin, there's also a fantastic pod, Planet FPL. Let me see if I can find it. Planet FPL. Where was it? The Chip Strategy pod. If you haven't watched that, you need to be watching that. You need to be watching that. James breaks down a lot of stuff there. For how the chips could be played. But basically what we're expecting. Here's another tweet from Ben Crellin as well. This kind of shows what blank game week fixtures we're expecting. Game week 25, Carabao Cup final, Newcastle and United will blank in that weekend set of fixtures. Game week 28, there'll probably be about 4 blank game week fixtures, and game week 32. Those are going to be the blanks. The big and medium-sized double game weeks are going to be 29, 34, and 37. There's potential blanks for game week 35 as well because of the King's coronation in the United Kingdom. But what will probably happen is either the games will be played later on in the Saturday, or they'll all be played on the Sunday, kind of like how they're done on the final game week of the season. Probably good to try and bank a transfer this week then. Oh, yes. Yes, indeed. So, if you have a situation like how I do, so this is my current team. We got Ederson in goal. We got Trippier, Shaw, Robertson, Rashford, De Bruyne, Mitoma, Martinelli, Martial, Haaland, captain, Kane, with Andreas, Ben White, and Bueno on the bench. All the fixtures aren't great this week anyway in terms of matchup-wise. A lot of teams that we will have in our FPL teams are playing each other. So you have the likes of Trippier in your team going against Palace. A lot of managers will have Shaw and Rashford. They're going to be going up against like Martinelli, Saka, Nketiah, Odegaard, Ben White, Gabriel, Saliba, Ramsdale, whoever. You got Kane, who's going to be probably playing against Mitrovic owners. Robertson is going to be against Chelsea. They'll have Kepa. So that's, you're hoping for like a double clean sheet. So like I have no problem with Andreas Pereira coming in for Martial if he's not available. 100%. I'm going to play Martial because if Ten Hag plays him, if he's going to play him, he's going to start, I think, or he's just not going to be in the team at all. He hasn't trained all week, so the likelihood is he's probably not going to play at all. So I would just keep Pereira first sub. And then basically I just hope that, because Martinelli's so high owned, it doesn't matter what he does. Rashford and Shaw are decently high owned, but I'd rather United obviously win, being a United fan, and then keep clean sheet. So, yeah. Probably good to do Almiron out next week for Odegaard or Mitro to Tony. So, the thing is with Tony, remember, if we go to game week 25, remember, if you bring in Tony, Tony also blanks in game week 25 if United make it to the Carabao Cup final. Which again, we'll know between game week 21 and double game week 22. We'll know what happens there. Because United will have already played their 2 fixtures versus Forest and we'll know what's already going on there. So, that's why you need to be wary if you're bringing in Brentford players, Brighton players, Newcastle players, Manchester United players. Those 4 teams are likely I say, because you expect Newcastle to beat Southampton, you expect United to beat Forest, especially over 2 legs. You expect that. And that to be the final. So you have to be wary. So in my team, if we take a look, if Game Week 25 was tomorrow, let's say, I would be without Martial, who's injured anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Rashford makes 2. Shaw makes 3. Mitoma makes 4 and Trippier makes 5. The good side of it is that I have Ben White, Andreas Pereira, and Bueno, who all seem to be starters. So they can come in, and I will only have 2 players, basically, that I don't have to cover, as it were. So, like, I can play, or 2 players that I would have to cover for with transfers. So Martial would come out for somebody because he's injured, most likely. I can then get rid of, I don't know, Mitoma, as he was just like kind of a quick, cheaper midfielder. He can always come out and then come back in. And then we've got ourselves covered. And then we bench Trippier, we bench Shaw, we bench Rashford. Play Andreas, Ben White, and Bueno. Andreas Pereira in Game Week 25. Wolves at home. Perfectly good fixture. Perfectly fine to play in. Ben White Game Week 25. Leicester away. No problems there. Hugo Bueno in 25. Fulham away. Again, you're playing him versus Pereira versus Mitrovic. Not ideal, but it's still something you can do. So that's kind of the things we have to kind of take a look at. So your team is Kepa, Trippier, Botman, and Ben White. Think that's fine. KDB, Rashford, Martinelli, Almiron. Think that's fine too. Kane, Holland, Captain, and Mitrovic with Ward, Shaw, Andreas, and Castagne. Any changes you'd make? So basically the only thing that it comes down to, if you think Arsenal's more likely to keep a clean sheet, play Ben White. In my opinion, I think both teams are going to score. That's just how I see it. I think both teams will score. So then it just comes down to who's more likely going to get an attacking return, Luke Shaw or Ben White. I think that favors Luke Shaw. That's just my opinion. I think whatever Arsenal players and United players attacking-wise you have, you play them 100%, especially if it's Rashford, Martinelli, Odegaard, whoever. In terms of Shaw or Andreas or Ward, I think you play Kepa versus Liverpool because he's going to get saves. Almost certainly. He's going to get saves. I think it just makes more sense. So you play Kepa. And then Shaw versus Andreas Pereira. I think you still play Shaw because, you know, in these types of matches, these derby quote-unquote matches, everything kind of goes kind of out the window. I would put Andreas first on your bench, so I would have it the way. So Castagne, who does Castagne play? He plays Brighton. I would probably have Castagne out of all the out of your 3 bench players. I would have Castagne last, then Shaw second last, and then Andreas first on the bench. But if you think that Arsenal's going to keep, if you think Arsenal's more likely to keep a clean sheet, then you play Ben White, basically. Andreas in for anyone in the 11? Nah. Martinelli and Rashford play each other. Cool, fine. KDB's at home to Wolves. You ain't putting him on the bench. No chance. And Almiron plays Crystal Palace. I think you play him. I think you just play him. Kane, Holland, Mitrovic, you're playing all 3 of those as well. I think your 11's fine. And then it's just, you either play Shaw or Ben White. basically. No, you just put Andreas on the bench. In my opinion, I would put Andreas on the bench. I would play Almiron, I'd play Mitrovic. In that instance. And then the only case for you with the 3 defenders would be Ben White or Luke Shaw. If you think that Arsenal's going to keep a clean sheet, you play Ben White. If you think United's going to keep a clean sheet, you play Luke Shaw. If you think they're both not going to keep a clean sheet, who do you think's more likely to get attacking returns or win the game? You pick that player. Do I feel Mitrovic is off pens? The only way we'll find out is when the next penalty for Fulham happens. I think he's still on them until he's not, basically. Yeah, I'm going to have White second on the bench. I think Bueno versus Man City is definitely not it. So basically, if Martial doesn't play, the one player I want to come in would be Andreas first, for sure. And then if a defender somehow isn't playing, let's say Robertson's just not available for whatever reason, I'd rather Ben White come in over Bueno. And then just hope the United-Arsenal game is like a 1-0 United after Ben White's already been subbed off type ordeal. It's probably not going to happen, but anyway, regardless. But yeah, that was great. Good stream. We kind of answered a lot of different questions there. A lot of different kind of things. What's my plan for Gameweek 24? What's Gameweek 24? Nothing special in Gameweek 24. Oh, like, what's my plan up until Game Week 24? Oh, like this? With this, we'll worry about it next week, basically. Because, a lot of the stuff determines whether, is determined whether United go through or not. Plan for next week, it all depends on if United have a double or not. If United have a double, then we potentially move out Martial if he's injured. We could do, like, if we had 2 free transfers, we could put in Nato, who's been playing, and then we could also put in, like, instead of De Bruyne, we could get, like, Bruno Fernandes as an example with our 2 free transfers, and that would be our double game week, and you go from there. Who knows? We'll have to kind of see how it all unfolds. Because ideally, what we want for 23 is we want triple Arsenal and triple City. So then it'll probably be a roll in 22. Which looks to be decent on paper based on the current players that we have right now. And then in 23, it would be get rid of Fernandes probably for... even though he plays, because his Leeds fixture is being maneuvered, basically. It'll be... You have De Bruyne in there. Or the Leeds fixture would still be there. But you'd have De Bruyne coming in. You have Triple City. I would have double Arsenal. And the other Arsenal striker I could have could be like Nketiah. I could keep Nato, bench him for Ben White. I could potentially upgrade like Pereira and get to like Odegaard or Saka or something like that if I had a little bit extra money somewhere. And I'd probably play him over... Probably even Robertson, to be honest. I don't even know. I have no clue. Nato triple captain, no chance. But yeah, that's kind of... We'll worry about that. Because again, a lot of information is going to come between... So at the end of this week, we have on the Tuesday, Wednesday, is the Carabao Cup fixtures. And then on the Friday, Saturday, Sunday is the FA Cup fixtures, and then on the Tuesday, Wednesday again, it's the second legs of the Carabao Cup. Then on the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, it's game week 22, but we'll know all the information that we need. So, make sure to have your team all kind of planned out. It is good for these sorts of things. It is good for these sorts of things, so you can have kind of like a what if this, what if that. But there are a lot of games to be played. I wouldn't make any transfers especially for United players, until after they play Forest, which is let me just double check. Man United. So yeah, Man United play. We play Arsenal on Sunday, Forest on the Wednesday, then we play Reading on the Saturday, then we play Forest on the following Wednesday. And then we play Palace 3 days later on the Saturday. So I wouldn't be making any form of transfers until before that second Forest leg. Because especially if United get a bad result in the first leg, they're gonna go full strength. In the second leg, 100%. So, and then it's the double Leeds fixtures. Then you got Barcelona, Leicester, Barcelona again. Then it's Brentford on that weekend, followed by Liverpool, followed by Southampton into Brighton, and then international break after that. So yeah. What's the chip strategy vid? It is posted it earlier in the chat, but I'll post it again. So it's called Planet FPL. Brilliant podcast between James and Suj. And James breaks it down beautifully. You can make notes on it as well. It was also mentioned on FPL Black Box, but they're also going to be doing another one after those Carabao Cup and FA Cup fixtures are done, because we'll then know for future stuff as well, and we can revisit it there. But he breaks it down beforehand, and we'll let you know before that. He also mentions kind of how United might be playing Leeds in back-to-back games, which ends up coming to fruition as well. So, brilliant stuff. But let's move over to the big screen. So, that's going to do it for the Gameweek preview. Very long stream. We talked about a whole bunch of stuff. Hope you all enjoyed it. I need to go get some food because I'm starving. So, hope you all have a good Gameweek 21. Remember, do not make any transfers before United have played their 3 fixtures in the English Cup competitions. They have 2 fixtures versus Forest. They also have 1 fixture versus Reading. Same for Brighton players. Same for Brentford players, same for Newcastle players. Those players could all blanket game week 25, so don't do anything rash beforehand. So make sure to like, favorite, comment, subscribe. Go check out Planet FPL. They're fantastic. I'm going to be paying attention to what they're doing as well. And we're going to take a look at Ben Krellin, see what he has to say. He'll basically update his table when things transpire. So it's going to be a lot of stuff happening over the next couple of weeks, which will determine what chip strategies we could be using, and we'll discuss that when that is available for us to do so on the next live stream. So, like, favorite, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And until the next one, take care.